Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm 23 years old and I am the communications and project manager at the Stigma-Free Society. I am very passionate about mental health awareness. On the side, I have a blog called Blossoming with Bipolar, and so I really love that. The beginning of grade 9 is when everything really started to change for me. So the year started off really well, it was really good at first. I had my friends that I had been friends with for a long time, and it was exciting. It was exciting to start in a new school, and the school had a really good dance program and choir, and I was very excited and hopeful. But then there were certain things that started to happen. My grandparents, they started struggling with some really serious health issues, and it had a really big impact on me. I started to become really sad and really grumpy and irritable. Something was kind of triggered in me, and I wasn't myself. Everything was dark around me, and people around me started to notice that. I had been self-harming, and I remember this day when I had my best friend, and I was talking to her about kind of how I was feeling, like I wasn't feeling like myself, and she noticed like I had some scars. In her eyes, it wasn't support or concern, it was judgment, it was stigma. And then all of a sudden I just felt ashamed, like it just washed over me. And then I kept thinking like, okay, what is going on with me? There must be something wrong. So when I started acting differently like this, my friends, they didn't know how to support me. And then I remember one day, I have a very clear memory of this. They sat me down in the hallway, and they just said straight up, I don't think we should be friends anymore. And it still makes me emotional to this day. It's like, whoa, it's 10 years later, but it was like my first heartbreak, because I was really close with them, and I thought, and then all of a sudden I was like alone. I had been this super social person with all these people around me, but I was just completely alone, because it wasn't only them, it was as soon as they left, and I guess they probably told people about how I was acting differently, all my acquaintances, the friends through the friends, they also just disappeared. So I was in a new school and I was alone, and I just remember being really devastated and in my room, like crying. My parents didn't really know what was going on. I was still really ashamed of what was going on with me. So I decided to stop talking about it, because that didn't go very well when I did talk about it. And my family started to notice, and they were really concerned, but they didn't know how to help either. It was like anything they said just wasn't helping. A while later, I would start to feel really good. I felt like I was on top of the world. I think what I kind of like to compare it to is that when I was in that depression, everything was dark, everything was blackness. But then when this would happen, everything would be like bright yellow, and I would feel like I had endless energy, but then that would mean that I would stop sleeping, and I stopped eating, and I started exercising like a ton just to try to get rid of all of this energy that I had. I would later discover that it was hypomania that I was experiencing, but at the time I didn't know that. And so it was really scary. During those times, I started to engage in really dangerous and risky behaviors. I started to do things like sneak out of the house, which is so dangerous. I remember just really liking walking around at night. And this was so unlike me. Like, my parents didn't know what was going on. I was this responsible goody two-shoes, and then I was just a completely different person. That would happen for 2 weeks. And then the next 2 weeks, I would fall back into that really deep depression, and I would think about what happened when I was in those elevated moods, and I would feel ashamed, and I would feel regret. I would feel just awful about it. And the cycle repeated again and again and again. So I would go up and I would go down every 2 weeks. And I went to see a doctor, and I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression, which wasn't wrong because I was experiencing that, but I was given a medication that then triggered a full-on manic episode. So this was so much more intense than that elevated mood I was experiencing before. I hardly even remember at all, like, really what happened. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and as soon as the doctor said that, it just made so much sense, and it felt like weight had been lifted off. And I remember telling my mom, like, now I can finally get help. I can finally figure out what's wrong with me. Even though there wasn't something wrong with me, I just had mental illness that needed to be treated. Last year, I was going through a really long period of depression. It was the lowest that I have been for so long, probably since grade 9, honestly. I have had many periods of depression throughout university. There was always at least like one time per year for a few months, but this one was just lasting forever and ever. It got to a point where I didn't want to live anymore. And it wasn't that I didn't want to live because I love my family and my partner and my friends, but I just didn't know how to go on. I just didn't know how to keep going when nothing was ending. Everything, all the darkness and the depression, it just kept going and going. I was sorry. I was seriously thinking about ending my life. And I didn't. I'm here. But I'm also very lucky because I had a crisis plan in place. Even though I had these feelings and I started to make these plans, I knew like I needed to get help. But also my partners just started to notice. Like, it was just got to a point where I just wouldn't get out of bed, and I just didn't have any hope. Thank goodness, my partner kind of was there and noticed, and he took me to the hospital, and I was admitted just for the night. And when you're laying there on this hospital bed, you really think about, like, it's not that I want to end my life. It's just I need something to change. I need some sort of hope. I need some sort of light that can, like, get me through. And honestly, ever since then, I have just found this new peace. I felt very peaceful. My anxiety, it just kind of dropped, and I just started to really appreciate everything around me, everything that I have. My amazing support system, my kitten, my friends, and just things in my daily life that make me happy. And I can honestly say that lately I've been feeling like myself. Like, I feel really good. And I realized that for so many years I didn't feel that way. I wasn't myself. Before we can break down the stigmas around us, we really have to look inside. We have to look at ourselves. But it also means reflecting on the biases and the stigma that we hold about other people, because they are kind of ingrained in us, in a sense. I want young people to know that when you are struggling with your mental health, or you get diagnosed with a mental illness, it isn't the end. My mental illness, my struggles, my challenges, they have all made me a stronger person today. I can now say that I don't have those regrets. I am who I am today because of what I've been through. And now I can share my story to make sure that other people don't go through that. If you are struggling right now, just know that there is hope. There is always hope. Even if it's just a tiny bit, you will be able to get through what you are going through. And there is a bright future ahead of you where you will find that happiness again. You will find peace. And even if it takes a long time to get there, and it's not always going to be easy, but in the end, it really is worth it.